live coming at you today. How's it going? Today is another Sunday morning. I finally found my glasses. It is 12 p.m. and I'm fired up. I've oiled my engines. I've been doing some work for the past few hours, and today reminded me of my first venture that I started online ever 5 years ago. And it's June. It's about the same time that my venture finished. It only lasted 2 months, and I just wanted to, reminisce and share with you about how that process has started. So, what niche was I in? What was I selling? How did I do it using only Skype? Okay. How this started, first of all, was, by the way, I found my sunglasses, but they're crooked because I'm missing a frame. That's okay. You don't need to know that. Okay. So also, I gotta include the coffee in here, right? Coffee plug. It's delicious. Anyways, 5 years ago, how this happened was I was so uh, eager to make some money any way that I could. And I had a friend who was doing making money online. That's all I knew at the time. I was like 19 years old, and I I wanted to just make money, and I didn't know how. And I was more interested in making money online because I knew, for whatever reason, I don't remember what made me think like that, that it was like the way, the new age way to make money, and that you don't, or rather, it's the most accessible way to make money rather than trying to make money out in the streets by yourself. The best way to build a side hustle is to go online and make money online. But I didn't know how you did that. I just know that you could. And I had a friend who was doing that. And even when he spoke to me about it, I didn't quite get what he was saying. He was just like, man, you just go and you find deals and you sell things. And I was confused because I was like, is this a website you go to? Because this entire time that I've used the internet, it's always been as a consumer, either watching content or playing games, or researching and or watching things like it, but it was never from a productive, I mean, not productive, like a creation stand of view, because it's almost like I thought that the internet just existed, like it was just this thing where information was just there and then people just made information. Little did I realize that it was a collection of information made by several different people, and it's just the actual individual production of things that makes up the internet. So you just need to look at it from a broader sense like that, and you'll have a much more wider understanding of the scape, the landscape that exists out there, and then you know how to make money from that. But I didn't know any of this. So what happened was I started googling online how to make money, uh, how to make money online, and then a bunch of websites showed up. Ones were like, you got to do surveys. Here, fill up the survey for a musical um, snippet that you listen to, and then you'll get paid in like pennies. And I did that. I remember I surveyed like 10 songs, and then I looked at my dashboard and I had like less than 1 penny. And I was like, okay, man, this is not the way. So I kept going through the Google search results, and I found something called like Monkey Turk or Mechanical Turk or something like that. And it's where you basically act like a click bot. You just keep clicking to make money. But I never got to it. I was just like reading about it. I never really understood. None of it made sense. I was like, I'm sure this is not what my friend Amar was doing. Shout out to Amar. If you ever hear this video, this is what sparked the first online venture. Looking back at this in 2020, this is what unraveled. It's all you, man. Anyways, um, I I talked to him, right? So I hit him up, message. We were living totally halfway across. And I was in Malaysia. This guy was in the U.S. And I was, ironically, I was talking with him on Skype. And then I asked him like, oh no, I showed him some of the projects that I've been working on, because at that point, I had heard from him that he sold a website for $200 that he made in 2 days. And then I was like, oh wow, making websites. Maybe I can make a website and flip it just like him. And I'm like, all right. So I made some websites and then I showed it to him. And then it's funny because he went through them, and I told him, "Hey man, what do you think is the selling potential of these websites I just made?" And then he went through them real quick, and then he was just like, I don't think it could sell." I'm like, "What? Why not?" He's like, "Because it doesn't offer a direct way to make money, so no one is gonna buy it." And that's why they bought his websites, because he sold e-commerce stores. And he's like, "Why are you making websites anyway?" I was like, "I'm trying to make money online." And he's like, "Oh, ha ha ha." And he's like, "Okay, no man, there's like a lot of different ways." And he's like, "Hey, listen, how about this? If you because he saw I was actually really trying, right? But I was just going to the wrong direction. He was like, "There's this thing going around, right, in the gaming community. Um, some like PlayStation mods, right? You can mod your PlayStation for a game. I don't want to get too specific from the details. Okay, I'm just gonna skip what kind of game it was, but it's PS4 mods." And he's like, uh, right now it's trending because for that specific season, for whatever reason. Yeah, I never really understood it. I never had a PS4, so I don't know. And he was like, hop on it, like, sell. I have a PS4. Bring me customers. I'll give them the mod, and I'll give you a cut. And I'm like, oh, all right, sure. I was like, okay. And I was like, but where do I start? And then he was just like, just think about your customers. Think about, first of all, who would be playing this game, and secondly, where would they be hanging out online? Where do they congregate online? Uh, where can you find them? How can you get to them? And then I just started thinking and thinking and thinking. And for this specific game, um, what I started off with was just obviously Google searching. I went on YouTube. I started going to YouTube comments, for people looking for this mod, right? Because people looking for the mod would probably look at it on YouTube. I started going online. I started finding forums. Okay, I found a lot of forums that sell different kinds of PS4 mods, and this game was specifically in trending. So I started making accounts and making user accounts, and then going into these forums and posting threads that I'm selling mod services for this game. And after that, um, I just kept trying out different things. I even went to Twitch, and I got banned from Twitch because I didn't know you couldn't sell there. I went to Reddit, and I got banned from there because I didn't think you could sell there either. And then I stuck to a specific few channels that actually my threads got views and started getting replies. So at the time, I didn't have any websites or any know-how. Okay, so he what he recommended was just use Skype, right? Just redirect them to Skype or email, and that's what I did. So on the threads, I would link people to my Skype, and I remember, I made a listing. I also made no, I made a listing for Skype, and then I started getting customers almost the next day. People messaging me, "Hey, how much are your modding services?" Blah blah blah. And my first customer was a guy, ironically, who wanted it for free. I was like, sorry man, I can't do this for free. And he's like, please, I'll give you anything. And for the longest time, I just kind of avoided him because I really didn't want to. I was like, nah, this kid is a waste of time. But then eventually, um, no, what I told him was, okay, listen, if you really wanted a free account, not a free account, a free mod, why don't you go, if you get me customers for this mod, I'll give you a free account, like as a profit. And he was like, all right, sure. He couldn't get me a customer, but instead, what he did when I contacted him a few days later is that he actually made me a website. So this guy, a random guy online who found my thread, and when I say Skype, I don't mean video. We're just like chatting. Most of the people don't want to go on video; they're just chatting on Skype. But what this guy wanted, okay, he told me like he was willing to do anything to get a free mod. So instead, he made me a website and is like, "Hey, this will help you sell your account, your mods." So I'm like, "Okay, fine." And then because I like the website, and he gave me some new, better ideas than the comment, because there's a lot of people selling these mods. So I had to find a way to stand out. So gave him the free mod. He gave me the website. He never gave me any customers, but a few days after the website I linked the website to my thread. I woke up one day and I had like money in my account. And I was like, wow, some random guy just found my website through a thread and paid me like $20 for this mod, and he didn't even know it's going to be delivered. He didn't follow my instructions. I left instructions on the website what to do. He didn't even contact me on Skype. He just bought it, and I mean, lucky, I provided because I wanted good reviews and I didn't scam the guy. Um, and I just got a taste of that, like the potential of what the hell is going on. Like it seemed like so surreal. Here I am in just this random part of the world. Meanwhile, there's this other random people passing me their money. They're whipping out their cards and they're passing you their money over something they just wanted. It's not even a necessity. It's not even something permanent. It's just a mod that they're gonna try for a few days until they get bored and then they're gone. So, okay, I'm kind of dragging here, but trust me, this is where it all started. This is where it happened. This is why I do what I do. So we get on Skype and I start getting my first customers on Skype. And the first sale I ever made before, okay, this was before the website story I just told you. This was my first Skype customer. And what happened was I charged him $12. He sent me the $12. My friend took too long to do the mod because again the time zone and the time difference. And the customer got upset. He's like, you know what? Forget it. I already found another guy who just did it for me for half the price as you. But he's like, I don't care about the money. I don't need a refund. But you got to work on your services. And he left. And there I had like $12 on my PayPal, which was funny. I was subscribed to this freelancer service because along the way, as I was looking for ways to make online, I came across freelancer.com and I started trying to make money as a I never succeeded on their platform. I even paid for the subscription. And what happened was the next subscription of $6 was due, or six, no, it was more than that. I think it was $10. And when I made my first $12 sale through the Skype customer, they immediately deducted the subscription fee, and then I was left with $2. There was $2 in my first PayPal ever transaction that I made online was $2 left profit after they canceled it. So I got so pissed off. But what was crazy is the guy didn't even care about his $12. He was just like, you know what, screw it, just keep the money of you, but your services suck, and he left. And that was crazy as the first customer experience. But I was just so blown away by seeing the money there, and I was just like, this is it. This is what I'm gonna do. This is what I'm like. I had a life breaking revelation at that moment when I saw that credit, that digital credit inside my account, knowing I only spent a few hours in the day on my computer, and it resulted in monetary, like, it was just I can't explain it to you enough, but a new reality was born that day. And I just, from there, I didn't even need motivation. The momentum and inspiration that carried on just like went on a mad crazy snowball effect. So what I did is I went to all these threads that I was already posting on, and um, I made my scripts better. Okay, I looked at the competition. I I I researched ways how to write convincing copy. I worked on the font, the typeface, the size, the colors, and I made my offers amazing. I was here's one thing. I was really good at sales for some whatever reason. I was just good at selling stuff. Okay, ever since I was a kid, I've been selling like random junk to classmates, and I just had, I don't know, I still don't know what was the leading factor to these things, but I'd get this weird in my brain when I know I'm about, like, okay, if I do this, it's gonna give me that sale kind of thing, in real time, not not because what you have to remember is this wasn't e-commerce. It was me bringing customers to Skype and closing them through Skype. So when it comes to mods, there's a lot of trust issues, and a lot of the people in the market were scammers. Actually, they would just take your money and bounce. None of them were even mod sellers. They were just, that's just the market that I found on these threads. It was sketchy threads, but then I provided really good transparent service and people loved it, and which is why I was able to quickly grow fast. I also had great deals. I had great prices. So here's the thing. Here's my strategy that I came up with along the way. So as soon as I started getting 5 customers a week, okay, this was in the first month, I was making like $100 a week. Meanwhile, I was doing an internship, so I wasn't even doing this full time. During my internship, when I didn't have work, I would just be on Skype talking to customers. And then eventually, I found a guy who can do more mods. So instead, I didn't have to rely on my friend anymore. So I pay the guy a fee. He'd send me the mods, and then I send it to the customer, and I'd make. So I was like a merchant now. This made things very easy for me because I didn't have to spend time making mods. There was no inventory to ship. Everything was digital. It just needed emails, and like I would just send them the mods through email, and that was it. I didn't have to buy the product. I just paid a service fee to the my modder, and that was it. All I had to do was post threads, bump them, and then wait for customers on Skype, which I would do during lunchtime on my internship. So I was doing a free internship. Meanwhile, I was getting paid online through Skype. So the first month I made like uh, $300. Okay. The second month is when I made a buttload of money. So the first month was three. The second month I made like 1,007, 1,006 of because I started getting more customers. I made them leave reviews on my thread, and that quickly booted up my social proof. That led to a like domination of those threads. Eventually, I became the top pinned thread because I just had so many good reviews. And I told you it was a dodgy market, so it wasn't easy to stand out. You just needed to be honest and transparent with people, and you could charge higher prices because people were like, "Hey, this guy, I recommend him." And how I beat the competition, because there were guys there way with thousands of customers or views. So I was like, how did I stand out? I started off by selling a little bit cheaper than the competition. I found out the average price, sold cheaper, provided a faster service. So these guys were modders selling their own service. Meanwhile, I would just get my friend to set up a ton of mods that I'd pay him, and when a customer comes, I give it to him directly. So a big issue with this thing is that people had to wait like one day for their mod. Meanwhile, I was giving them within 1 minute after they paid me because I already had it readied up. So and I charged cheaper. So that gave me an influx of customers. Then with those customers, I got them to leave reviews, which boosted up my trust. Then when I got a little bit of trust and started eating up more of those, it was a very small market threads that I went to. I didn't expand very much, but that's all you needed. It was very niche, and it just had all of them were buyers ready to give you money. So I started growing real quick. I started charging higher prices, and then I offered an alternate service. So I added another product to the service I was already offering to upsell customers, which was basically no. What I did was, so I was selling quicker service, so I booted up the price. So I was selling it at 12. Now I'm selling it at 25. Okay, put it here, and then I made it cheaper service at around $17. That was the same service, but one day you had to wait for one day. So this is when I didn't have stock. And sometimes I'd make sales with this, but a majority would come to the 25. And now I was able to charge higher. But I also offered a cheaper service, which was still great. And that just allowed me to get so much capital that I started investing in, because you have to pay to keep your threads posted to the top. But it was like $5 a month. Okay. I was making at this point more than $1,000. And at some point, it got so crazy that I was the biggest seller on these threads, believe it or not. And I started charging ridiculous prices at that point. So I ate up the market. I became the kingpin. That was my name. It was called Kingpin, and because of the nature of the game that these people play, okay, it was relevant. Not like some narcissistic online, alter ego thing. Nah, it's not a that. So um, I told you like that customer that set me up a website so I can give him a free mod. I was making sales from that. I would refer people to that and made them trust me more. It was just this crazy snowball effect. At that point, I didn't give a damn about my internship. I was making so much money that I would walk into Levi's, and I remember seeing the price tag. And for the first time ever, I used to walk in these stores. I'm like, damn, $90 for a pair of jeans. Like, who would do that? Because I was so broke at the time. But then it was so weird how money changes your psychology. I'm walking in, I'm looking at the prices, and I was like, oh, yo, these aren't that bad. I think I might be able to buy one. And then look at the price because the way I rationalize is like, I make double of this a day. So if I bought this, I'd make back the cost like by evening. So you like it was that crazy. That's how much I was making a day. I was making close to $100 of that, and during the last few weeks. And the pants were nice. I was like, I'm not. I'd go eat at restaurants I didn't eat before. Nothing fancy. It was just like Chili's, but I couldn't even afford Chili's before I started this venture. So, and this happened so quickly. It was in the course of 2 months. My financial life changed because I went from literally zero to $2,000 in 2 months. No, in the first month again I made 300. In the second month I made 1,007. So, if you really count the weeks, it was I started in the middle of the last month of the previous month that I made 300, and on the second, close to the end, I made 2,000. So it's like a month and a half. But m- my mind expanded, and I was just thinking, how can I do more? How can I do more? I was like, maybe if I set up a better website, then I can host for ads, you know. But then I was so naive, right? Because this mod thing just trends for a while and then it drops. It's not sustainable. But I was just thinking, how can I like really, really milk this trend for what it was? At some point, I realized um, the mods were becoming irrelevant because the developers of the game were putting up patches that prevented the addition of some kind of mods, right? Because it was an online game that kept getting patches and patches. So that really destroyed the whole model. But which is why it lasted 2 months, and I came close to the wave and then the dip. So during those 2 months, though, I again here's how I overtook it. This I think you call this an oligopoly. It's when a small market exists. So this was a very small market, and I came in. It was a small, dodgy market with a lot of scammers exploiting this trend. I came in, honest, transparent service. People trusted me because it was through Skype chat. Um, I started low, cheap, right, to get reviews and social proof. Then I started charging higher prices when I was now more competitive. So I started charging higher prices in the competition. I that allowed me to gain even more social proof because now and create an alternate service of faster speed. So I had my price hike was justified by trust and speed, and at, and then when I was the only guy left that had all the attention, I doubled my fee, and by okay, here's the finale of the story. By the time I was the kingpin of these forums, I I was I was charging $45 per mod because I was telling people now it's the only time you can get it. So I introduced a scarce factor in the end. So the moment I became the kingpin, I introduced a scarce factor to increase the flux of sales even more, and I doubled my fee. So now I was selling accounts. I mean mods. God damn it, they're mods. They're not accounts. I was selling mods for. I wasn't even selling the mods. I was just the middle guy. Okay, so get this straight, right? I am not even the modder. So I was paying my modder $4 per mod. I was charging at first $12 to my customers. So I was pocketing $8 a mod. Then after I gained social proof, I started being competitive. I started charging and created that new service. Started charging $25 for my 1 minute transfer and $17 for my 1 day mod transfer. I was still paying my modder $4, so now I was pocketing $21 and what's the math here? 12, $13 profit, net profit. Uh, and I was getting like at this point 7 customers a week. Sometimes I'd get 2 customers a day. If it was a Wednesday to Friday, I'd get maybe two, sometimes three. Um, and and again, I was the middle guy. Okay, I'm not even doing the modding service, but I was charging. $25 versus the competition was charging like 18 or 17, some 12, and they were modders. So I was destroying them. Okay. And so when I became the top at this point, after I just got so many customers from my 1 minute transfers, and I became the kingpin, I started charging $45. Okay, that means I'm pocketing now 41 clean profit. After I introduced the scarce factor, became kingpin, introduced the scarce factor, started charging $45. Um, and because I started charging $45, people thought that I was giving them premium service, and I did because at this point, I had 2 or 3 modders working for me who offered different modding packages. So this gave me like a diverse. It made me look fucking like a company. So I started charging $45 at this point, and people were eating them up because they knew this mod was gonna get patched soon, and they didn't care. They just wanted to try it because it was awesome. They were watching so many Twitch reviews about it. They were paying me $45 a mod, and they were loving it. Okay, and close to the end of the month, before I had to close everything up because of the patch, my last customer, I remember it was the last day of my internship. The last customer I got, I convinced him to buy uh, 3 mods for $300. Yep, I sold him 3 mods for $300 because he had friends, and these guys were rich. And I remember that $300 transaction, and I was just sitting there in my internship chair, and I was just blown away, like how I was in such a high, everything just felt accessible. I remember I went to this place, you can see the city after my internship. After work finished, I went to this helicopter pad. You can go to this helicopter pad and you can see the city. And I remember sitting there watching the city light up, and I just felt so achievable. Like I felt like I could do anything. And it was this high of like, it's crazy. It's just 2 months. And I went from, looking for making money from online reviews to on a helipad, just imagining what more could be after this. And I promised myself, I was like, you know what? I am not all this money that I made, I'm gonna put it all back in to a new project. I'm gonna invest all of it so that I can double, triple the price, whatever. Okay. I did take out $100 for me that day. Okay, I deserved it. I went out, I treated myself. It was $100. I even took my family on a little vacation. I rented out a car. I took them to the beach. We had a picnic. Um, I felt very good about that because I've never been able to do something like that for my parents. And the rest, I just put it all back into business, which is my second online venture. But we'll get to that tomorrow. So the lessons learned here were amazing, and it's what look, I made about 100 maybe closed deals during those 2 months, so I had an 80% closing rate through Skype. If I could chat with you, there was 80% chance you were gonna buy from me. That's how good I was, and I wasn't doing anything special. I was just honest with people, and I genuinely wanted to help them because I knew the market was devious and a lot of sellers were scamming people. And I just wanted to be like, hey, I felt like it was my right to save these people from these bad scammers because um, I wasn't going to scam them. I was actually interested in making good rep. I wanted the good rep. So, because I knew that was good, great for business. And that's what I did. And I never looked back ever, even though after the patch changed and I went back to trying to find new ways to make money, which led me to my second video game venture, which I'm going to talk about tomorrow. I've never been the same. Before, so this was 5 years ago, which meant I was 19. I decided that I wanted to get into business when I was 16. When I was like, you know what? Um, I'm not interested in this college thing. I'm not. By the way, I finished college, but the moment I started college, I was like, you know what? The academic system is not for me. I got to get out there and do better because I realized that I was way more productive when I had my own time than having to to follow the syllabus and stuff. Okay, and I could share that story with you another day, but that was my mentality at the time. But I didn't know what to do. So for those 3 years between 16 to 19, I did was read. Okay, I read so many books. I watched videos. I just absorbed and absorbed and absorbed. And when I started those 2 months, the reason I was so able to succeed so well was because I had 3 years of resources at my disposal. And what's interesting is you read so much, you forget a lot of things you read. But then when you're taking action, some of those things actually come back to you, and you remember, oh, that moment, like the idea of making that second product and improving my service came from knowing that Pepsi, or I think Coca-Cola, I forgot, owns a lot, or Nestle, I think, owns more than one chocolate brand. So when you're going in a store and you're looking at all these chocolate brands, most of them are Nestle. They're all the same company. And I was like, wow, I think I was reading this book, 48 Laws of Power, and one of them was the illusion of choice. And when I gave that illusion of choice, it I was able to expand my options. So like when people are given a choice, even though they're the same thing, they'll tend to make a higher decision rate for whatever reason. Um, and there's just so many tidbits that I learned from that experience. And then that going through them and having to deal with customers, that's when all the information that I was just storing in my head started to come to place. I didn't remember all of it, of course, but the ones that mattered came out and allowed me to get those results. And ever since the patch happened, I just kept on this effect. Like I started new projects, I found new niches. I got into drop shipping 2 years later. I got into digital marketing, okay, and content creation to make actual legitimate business growth for small enterprises. And I got into cryptocurrency. This was all through the past 5 years, and it all started with that $2 that I made in my PayPal. So it was a crazy experience, and it's crazy to think it's been 5 years. For the longest time, I've been saying 3 years. That was 3 years ago, 3 years ago, but that was 2 years ago. So now we're at 3 years, 5 years, and man, it is crazy. Like I just I just jumped and never looked back, and here I am today. And it's just I could never fully express this to you, future Gup. If you're watching this, just remember, man, the $10, the $2 and the PayPal, the $10 for the 3 years. Like I don't want to give you this impression that I'm highly successful. It depends what success means to you. Some people it's freedom, some people it's money. But in terms of finance and money, I've not been that successful. I've made these great wins, small, awesome, succulent wins. But in the large, like I'm broke right now. I'm negative. Like I'm like $1,000 more than that. I'm like I don't know. I don't know the exact conversion rate, but I owe people money right now actually. So I'm not even don't even take my advice. Okay, I'm not a pro. I'm just telling you the experience, the archive, so that when you actually talk about things and you try and to articulate your thoughts and experiences into words, kind of like writing, but this is more of a audio archive. You It teaches you just like how you learn by teaching. Teaching allows you to cement the things you've already learned. When you actually like verbalize and actualize these concepts, they become like constructs that you're like fully integrate. When you uh, take them out of your head and try and vocalize them and communicate them, you learn more about those concepts yourself. So as I'm explaining this to you, I'm learning about I'm reflecting. It's like a field report of what happened. And when you do field reports, you're able to break down the dynamics and find the underlying factors that created those exact variables, which means that in a future experience, you can recreate those experiences because you've got the blueprint that made them happen. Um, and that's like the biggest takeaway you can get from this. So, sure, I never made life changing amount of money. Uh, I have to work like a dog every day, but I'm content because I'm in the areas that I want to be in. And again, this me my money making hobby is a hobby. So the reason I went through all those forums and stuff and how to make money online was because making money in general for me was a hobby. So I've turned that hobby into my everyday career. So that's for me a form of success. But again, for me, I mean, I want to get rich. I don't know about you, but I want to be so loaded, man. I don't want to stop. So, but my point is that what it taught me was way more valuable than anything you could have paid me. So I don't care about the losses. Actually, it's just been like I said, I jumped and I never looked back, and it's where I am today, and it all started from that. So that was the first day the seed was planted, and now we're just getting started. Like I'm so glad I'm 24 now, and I have all this experience under my belt that makes me feel like I'm ready to take on bigger and bigger challenges. And the bigger and bigger challenges I take, the more compounding effect it just adds on and adds on and adds on like a layer. At some point, you're just gonna you're gonna just like percentage, and then kaboom. All right. So, and what's amazing is that I realize I love the process. I actually like the the back and forth, the rolling the dice and the risking your money, and then I just like there's a certain high from it you get, and there's this almost humbleness you develop from the losses. You lose so much that you know that you're not the smartest guy in the world. Okay, it's easy to think you're the smartest guy in the world when all you do is just read and you have all this information, but then when you try and put it in action, you realize how hard it is to actually get things to run good, and how uh, like reality reality makes you humble. Okay, so it it made me just know that, okay, look, you're probably gonna go when you're gonna get beat up, but I'm still going back in, which means I like the fight. I like being just in the trenches. So I'm not worried whether this works out or not, because sometimes I ask myself, man, is this all worth it? Like, look at me, I have all this work that I've done. Meanwhile, I'm in debt because I can't pay for my. I have to borrow money to pay for my college fee. So now I'm doing my master's. Look at that, 5 years later, I'm back in college. Ha, cha, cha, cha. I have a bachelor's degree and I'm getting a master's degree. So as much as I don't like academics and I don't believe in the whole system, I still did it. Okay, so I'm not talking from someone who's, yeah, be a college dropout, go start a business. I mean, I did that stuff. I don't believe in it, but I still did it because I had to. So I've tried. I've tasted the white picket fence trail. Okay, I didn't like it, but I tried it. So I'm not talking from a position where the conventional just drop out of high school. I went through high school, man. I finished architecture degree. That is not easy. It's one of the hardest courses you can take. I finished it, and I didn't believe in the system. I knew the system failed me, so I was like, this guy. I want to taste the other path. And now, even though, like I said, I could probably be living a more stable life, I'm doing what I want. I'm actually doing what I want. So there's no regrets in that. Like, I'm still 24 and I got to do what I want. And I got to, like, I don't know how to reframe that to you. I just got to do what I want. I didn't become rich, but I made the decisions that I actually wanted to make, and I paid for those consequences. But when you do what you want, you kind of just don't give a fuck about anything, and you start to develop this content. Like, I'm super content where I'm at. And don't think that that makes you not work hard. It actually, when you're content and you realize that just feeling like this is something that people would die for, that makes you want to work harder because you're afraid of the opportunity slipping between your hands because you took it for granted. So, and when you're living on the edge, it's hard to take things for granted. When you're constantly giving it all and leaving nothing to go back to, nothing, when you're just giving it your all, it's very hard, and you're living to your edge, it's very hard to take life for granted because living on the edge reminds you of death. And when you're in those situations that you're afraid of, your mind shuts down. I mean, your thoughts shut down, and you take so much action that it stops the thinking mind. By the way, that's by RSD Owen. Okay, that is not my quote. You can check him out. Real Social Dynamics. It's a huge, 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 enormous amount of the information and practical experience that I have today comes from Real Social Dynamics. So if you're interested about how I learned about these things, I promise you their videos are life changing. Okay. But I'll talk more about social dynamics in another episode. I just want to wrap up here. I hope I was able to effectively communicate the impact of this first venture. And I will see you guys next morning. This is Goober Studios checking out. I'm so glad I got my sunglasses, man. I found my broken sunglasses. I approve this message, and we are done. Thank you for tuning in. A peace. What up, man? Go. Yeah.